Hello and welcome to the Christmas special of Well Played. I'm your host Bluetongue from around Sydney, Australia. I'm joined by our hosts. Spreading season's greetings from Gladesville, we have Bauxite. How are you, Baux?
I'm doing pretty well. I just got a job offer, I've accepted, and I start on Monday. I have work for 3 days and then I take a week off for Christmas. So, yeah, easing very nicely into it. So, yeah.
Merry Christmas, have a holiday, yay!
Yeah, have a job, have some money, get paid for public holidays, don't come in.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What have you been playing this week?
A crap ton of Diablo, actually. Yeah, right before before season 4 ends and season 5 starts, which will be nice because I get to see all the new content and yeah, made it to level cap and I think I've got about 150 Paragon levels now. Been enjoying it, so
yeah, excellent. And then we get to start from scratch again, and it'll be good though. It's much better, and at the start of the season, it's a lot more. What's the word? Fresh. There's like a lot of people all sort of doing the same kind of stuff. There'll be lots of people playing and stuff like that. It's good fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
And, you know, now that I know what the hell I'm doing, I might do a bit better.
Yeah, well, it's more a matter of gear and stuff like that to start with. And once you're all equipped, then you start being really worried about how you're playing. But yeah.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm sort of more worried about staying alive while I get carried through dungeons,
Yes.
Rifts and shit. So, yeah, yep.
Excellent. So, heavenly chanting from the hills district, we have Harrow. How are you doing, Harrow?
Lovely segue there, Bluetongue. Just lovely how you made my introduction all festive. I'm doing.
I did my best. I'm like, H, I need something. Oh, close enough.
Hollering in on this holiest of holidays. We have Harrow. How's that?
That's
That's
excellent.
pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so you're in charge of writing the intros now.
Yeah. You need to do.
All right. I'm really good, boys. I've been playing Dawn of War Soulstorm with the Ultimate Apocalypse mod on, and just been enjoy playing an old game with cranked graphics and just churning out units and blowing the stuffing out of stuff. I've also been watching the original Star Wars trilogy in preparation for The Force Awakens.
Excellent. And so, Dawn of War, which race are you playing?
I'm alternating. I'm actually really liking playing as the Imperial Guard, even though they don't have stealth units, which suck, because you've just got the armor.
Yep.
The tanks just rolling thunder. That was the problem with the later expansions. They started reducing the amount of tanks you could use. In this mod, they just upped it. So you get tanks on top of tanks and more different types of tanks and flight. Yeah, tank.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, I seem to recall in the miniatures game you expected all your infantry to get slaughtered wholesale, and things that were going to really actually sway the battle for you was all of the armor.
Yeah. Oh, the infantry is to hold objectives. The armor wins you the games.
Yes. Very good. So, Well Played is a podcast. Wait. There's something missing.
Yes, Bluetongue, you didn't give me a chance. What's new with you, buddy?
I have been doing vast amounts of Christmas shopping, spending probably more than I should, but buying stuff that I know people are going to like, which is cool. I also did the online Christmas shopping thing this year, so I didn't actually leave my office for most of my Christmas shopping, and it was so much more pleasant than your traditional, like, go down, fight people physically for parks, and then go and, like, wander through shopping centres aimlessly, maybe picking up one or two things. So that's been excellent. I've also been working on my own board game of late. I had some really cool ideas and inspiration, so I've been writing down some notes and thinking of new bits and pieces to add to it and how it's going to play out. So that should be really interesting when it's finished.
That sounds interesting. We should talk about it off air so that no one steals your ideas.
Yeah, that's that's pretty much the plan. I'd love to get both of your input on what I'm thinking of. So, Well Played is a podcast about sharing comic books, graphic novels, movies, TV shows, computer games, and other board games we enjoy with our listeners. We are going to spoil everything we're going to talk about, although we shouldn't be talking about that many things that require spoiling for this episode. Also, as you may have noticed, the title of this episode is Christmas Special, so the intention is not to do a traditional episode with only one or two things that we're covering. We're actually going to be going through a list of things that you can buy for either other people who are interested in this sort of, I was going to say lifestyle. Yeah, I guess it's a lifestyle choice. Isn't the gaming,
you can use the N word, it's okay. Nerds.
Yeah.
Pop culture.
that one.
Yeah, okay.
The N word. But why? So we will be giving you some suggestions, and for those of our listeners who actually know us, some ideas of stuff to buy us personally. So we'll just be doing quick little rundowns of various things that we really love, and hopefully that will give you some inspiration as to what you can get your loved ones. So, starting off with Harrow.
Okay. This year I asked my little sister for Naruto's volume 70, 71, 72. It cost about $10 to $15, depending on where you get a volume. The Naruto, the manga, finished last year. They're milking that poor anime way past. Yeah, they need to stop with the filler.
Okay.
Just stop with that in the anime. But
so who would that be directed towards? What kind of audience would enjoy that specific gift?
Well, considering it is the very end of the story, I suppose someone that's liked Naruto at the beginning or liked it for a while but then dropped off when the story started to drag. Those final 3 volumes have the series ends with 3 really good fights in it. That's why I don't have the whole series. I'm just gonna finish up with those 3 volumes.
Okay, excellent. And it'd be roughly catered towards people interested in anime.
Yeah.
And like I guess there'd be. Is it more of a broader animation appeal, or is it specifically anime?
I don't understand, sorry.
Oh, as in like people who like, say, cartoons and drawing and stuff like that, would they find some measure of appeal in it, or?
Yeah, Mr. Kishimoto does some interesting designs. He's very good at imagery and epic foreshadowing, so he does some pretty good stuff.
Okay, excellent. Bauxite, what's the first thing on your list?
Well, I'm going to cheat. And say the first 2 things on my list, because in some ways they're a little similar. They're both games from a board games company called Asmodee, not Asmodee, but Asmadi. So, for some strange reason, they decided to make their company almost identical to Asmodee, which is a really huge company. I don't understand it, but they did it. So good on them. But 2 games, one called Motainai and one called Red 7. Motainai is the latest iteration of Glory to Rome by Carl Chudik. Glory to Rome is a somewhat infamous board game for those who are on Kickstarter, because one of the earliest Kickstarters out there, a fella bought the license for Glory to Rome and basically sent himself bankrupt trying to fulfill all the orders because he didn't incorporate, so he was personally liable for everything and a whole heap of stuff. He's basically the case study in what not to do on a Kickstarter. So, poor guy, but he made he published a really good version of Glory to Rome, which is like an insanely complex card game. Now, under Asmodee, Carl Chudik, the original designer, has re-released the game with mechanics that have tightened it up a little bit. It's still incredibly complex to see exactly what's going on, but basically every card is either a resource, an action, a thing in itself, I think that's it. Now, the resources power the actions or build the thing that it can be. So, I'm not even going to bother trying to explain much more than that. But if you're into complex card games, this is a must-buy. So I'm actually getting this one for my wife.
Okay. And is it a collectible card game, or is it just a one-off purchase?
Just a one-off.
Excellent.
Yep. So I am definitely away from the collectible card games these days. I'm grieving about all the money I've spent on Magic over the years. So
fair enough.
Yeah. The other one is Red 7, which is the lightest filler game that, yeah, it's great. So complete opposite end of the spectrum. Another card game with, I think, about 49 cards in there, labeled 1 to 7, and in 7 different colors. And it's really quite simple to pick up, easy to pick up, difficult to master. There's a level of strategy in there. So really looking forward to introducing you guys to that when we play it later on. I've bought that for my wife. I'm not going to lie, I sort of mainly bought it for me. So
you bought it for us.
yeah, it's a purchase for the family.
Right. Cats included.
That's right. They love card games. The only problem is they may not be very good at this game because the color of the cards is very important. I don't know how many colors cats can actually see. So,
fair enough. So, the first item on my list, I've opted away from most board games. I've got more computer games on here than anything else, and it would have to be my absolute favorite indie game that's available at the moment called Darkest Dungeon. Now, we have actually done a review in the past of this, except I don't think we published it under our relaunched title and design. So we might republish that in the near future, but in the meantime, it's what you would call loosely a roguelike dungeon explorer with turn-based combat. And it's got some really great animations, some really wonderful voice acting, engaging plot, and really interesting characters. And essentially, unfortunately, what happens is you send your adventurers down into dungeons, and they come back with all manner of disorders and diseases and stuff like that that you then have to try and fix over the course of the game.
Horrific PTSD, lifelong injuries, syphilis. Yeah, crazy.
You name it, they can get it. There's a massive library of diseases that you can pick up. So, yeah, that's actually tons of fun though. I'm really, really enjoying it. And I've got tons of value out of that game. I think it retails for not more than $20 on Steam. And it is worth every dollar. I think I've racked up close to 50 hours at the moment. Yeah, I'm at 59 hours, so, yeah.
Yeah, you've played a few more hours than me. I think I've only played, only about 35 hours. So, I really enjoy it. If you've got a friend who's into the Cthulhu mythos or any sort of H.P. Lovecraft stuff, this is going to be right up their alley.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I have a really big soft spot for turn-based strategy. And this fits very, very neatly into that category as well. All right, so going back to Harrow, what's your next?
Next thing on that I've asked for my family is the comic book series Injustice: Gods Among Us Year 2. For those of you that know, Injustice: Gods Among Us is a fighter game for all the last gen consoles, PS3, whatever, Xbox. Yes, really, really good storyline. I'm not one for fighters, but I love the story in the game. And they did this prequel comic, which no one expected anything good from, but is actually amazing. Year 1 is a sort of safety versus liberty debate, where Superman wants to take a more active role in keeping the world safe and is then seen as a dictator. So yeah, Year 1 is really, really good. Year 2, it's like the bad guys disengage their brains. They're not very intelligent. Year 3 is really, really good because they start using magic, and then Superman and his crew get all righteously indignant because the people against them are using demons and curses and other such things. But due to DC's lovely release schedule. I'm about 2 years behind what the series is actually up to because I like getting my comics in trade paperbacks.
Okay. Fair enough.
Good rant?
Sorry?
Was that a good rant?
Good rant? Oh, that's fine. And...
I've had better rants.
Just give it another run. So, what kind of audience is that one pointed at? So, are we talking DC fans?
Yeah, this is for DC fans. I don't think your casual moviegoer is gonna really get that much out of it. I could be wrong. A character that comes across that I've always liked this character, but whenever she's on the page, it's just a joy to read her story. Is Harley Quinn. If you're a Harley Quinn fan, I cannot recommend this series highly enough.
Yeah, I just finished the first edition of New Avengers. Not New Avengers. New Suicide Squad, and the Harley Quinn sequences in that were really, really good. I was very impressed. She's a lot less irritating in comic format than in computer game format.
This is so we're talking the new 52 Harley Quinn with the bleached skin?
Let me check. I don't think so. I think we're talking like... There it is.
Classical Harley Quinn with the blonde hair and the...
Yeah, no bleach skin. She's in a corset and she's got her traditional red and black theme happening.
I think that's right. Yeah, she gets... I'm not sure if it's retconned or if it happens later in the new 52, but yeah, they make her more... She goes all pasty white because she gets exposed to the same chemicals as the Joker is. I'm not actually a fan of the new iteration of Harley Quinn in the new 52.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd recommend Injustice: Gods Among Us though, if you like that character.
Very good. So, Bauxite, what's your next?
Well, next is a somewhat disappointing one for me. One Night Revolution. I kickstarted this and was super excited. It's One Night Werewolf meets the Resistance. I'm all on board for that. I love me some social deduction games. So kickstarted it. Unfortunately, all the Australian Kickstarters had been very badly delayed, and all the shops got stock before the Kickstarter people did. So very, very upset. But no, look, it looks like a fantastic game. I've seen copies in shops. I've been very tempted to buy it and then have 2 copies. But yeah, if you can get a copy from a shop, I would absolutely... this would be a great game for... It's a bit of a filler in some ways. So anyone who likes social deduction games, the rounds are not going to last terribly long. Anyone who enjoys One Night Werewolf but doesn't have a copy, I would probably consider getting them One Night Revolution. So...
Fair enough.
Just that, your circle of friends have got different things to play. So, yeah.
I'm holding my copy of it right now.
Yeah, I'm not jealous. What about yourself? What's next on your list?
Next on my list is one of my all-time favorites. It is Seven Wonders, the board game. Now, essentially, it's a drafting style board game where you build up your civilization from the Stone Ages and into what we could loosely call a classical civilization. And it's done through a drafting format where each of the players plays a card each round, and everyone's always getting to do something and being involved, and there's good player interaction. It's a really, really well-designed game. Now, I bring up the general version of Seven Wonders. There is a few more expansions and stuff that are available. The pick of which would probably be, for me, Leaders. I really enjoyed Leaders. Cities does add another player to the actual game, and then there is Tower of Babel expansion, which I haven't really gotten into that much, to be honest. I haven't found it nearly as enjoyable as the Leaders. But ignoring all those, there is yet another version that's been released just before Christmas, coincidentally, and it is a dueling version of Seven Wonders for 2 players. where instead of drafting, you're actually sort of unlocking a pyramid of resources and buildings that are available. So that's interesting. I've heard some good things about that already, but I'm not usually in a situation where I really desperately want to play two-player games, so I'm not necessarily going to get that outright.
Yeah, look, I love Seven Wonders. I think it's a brilliant game. Once everyone knows how to play.
Yep.
Yeah, my only complaint is that the first time you play, you lose, straight up. Which is, unless you have everyone being very generous and helping you every step of the way, it does take a little while to get into it. And an experienced player will beat a new player, hands down, every time.
Yep.
But yeah, apart from that, look, fantastic game.
Yep. Absolutely wonderful. In terms of the thing that would have to be easily the best about it is it's always involving all the players. And that's really unique. Not having to take turns, everyone just works at the same time. It's great.
Yeah, that's one problem I find with some games is that, it's Chris's turn. Well, I guess I'll just look at my phone for a little while now. But yeah, Seven Wonders not having that problem does make it, very good. What about you, Harrow?
I like Seven Wonders. Yeah, it's good when it's good for when you've got a larger group, because when you start doing turn-based games, when you're talking 5, 6, 7 players, it drags. But Seven Wonders is great when you've got 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the great thing, is that it doesn't take any longer to play a 3-player game than it does to play a 7 or 8-player game.
You're only as quick as your slowest player, but yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Is it my turn?
It is.
Oh, yay. Something I wanted to put on my Christmas list was the Planet X Dinobots. I suppose I shouldn't call them that. I'm a big fan of the War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron games and that whole era in the Transformers mythos. So I've been collecting that era of figures. Yeah, I collect Transformers. And this third-party group, Planet X, have been coming up with their own version of the Dinobots, and they're so good. I've got 4 of the 5 of them already, and there's still 2 more I want to get, but at the moment, because I think it's Christmas, they're crazy expensive, like $160 plus each. And I don't even pay that much for a Masterpiece Transformers, which are the really big ones that only come out twice a year. But still, very nice. If you're a big Transformers fan, look into it in a few months' time when the prices hopefully come down.
Now Transformers, that's the one with the explosions and the camera that shakes everywhere, right?
You're referring to the Michael Bay Transformers movies.
Am I? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm referring to the Transformers IP as a whole here.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'll have to come around and have a look at them when you get them.
Well, it won't be for a while. You can look at the ones I've already got. I've got Swoop the Pterodactyl, Sludge the Apatosaur, Snarl the Stegosaurus. That Stegosaurus is awesome.
So where would you get these models from, Harrow?
On the line. You can't get them in shops, I'm pretty sure. You can only really get them online.
But not even Hobbyco would carry them?
I'm pretty sure they don't even carry them.
Where online would you get them, specifically?
Honestly, eBay or Toy Arenas, the places I've got them in the past.
Cool. That was actually the 4th time I asked you that question. And I'm like, he just keeps ignoring me, and Nick keeps talking over me.
Sorry.
No, I had myself muted. Good times. All right, Bauxite, what's your next?
Oh, I'm sorry, I had myself muted. Next on my list is a game called Rococo. Now, I'm going to explain the theme to this, and you guys are going to be immediately uninterested. But I promise you it's an amazing game and is totally worth paying attention to. So, it's a game about being a dressmaker in, 1800s France? So, yeah. Your goal is to make the prettiest dresses and the best dresses and then have them worn by people who go to the party at the I don't know, royal person's house or whatever. And not only that, but have them in the best part of the party. And if you're really lucky, send them up to the top of the building where there will be fireworks at the end of the night. And the better your dresses, the better place they are at the party, the more points you get.
That sounds actually pretty good. Like, I'm like, aside from the fact that I'm not entirely comfortable, like, making dresses myself, I like the actual gameplay and what the game actually does in terms of mechanics is a whole lot more interesting to me than specifically what you're doing in the game as just a narrative.
Well, I just had an idea for a game here. Stay with me. It's a game where you have to make the most sinister looking and deadly guns. And the better the gun is, the more it's seen by people. And then it can go up the ranks and hopefully be seen by generals. And then you can go to the top of the hierarchy where there are fireworks. Could we make a gun skin or something like that for this game? And then I'm totally on board.
Sure. If the theme is something that's really going to bother you, this game probably isn't for you. But wrapped in the box is a fantastic, solid Euro. There's resource collection, there's set collection, there's area control, there's multiple strategies to winning. It's very competitive. It's a case of, it's worker placement, very, very solid game.
Is there much feel bad in the game?
No. Only in the sense that I had the opportunity to get thing X, but instead of me getting it, this other person got it because I did not choose to be first player.
Fair enough.
So in the same way that Agricola has a little bit of feel bad, in that situation, yeah.
So for the listeners, feel bad is what we've loosely deemed like negative player experiences. So stuff where someone will like kill you in game, or someone will like betray you, or someone will take away the stuff that you've earned. That's all sort of loosely deemed feel bad.
Well, they won't give you water, Bauxite, you jerk.
It was a calculated choice. So for the only feel bad I would say in this is that look, no, there's really none. You're in some areas you're racing to fill up a room with your dresses before the other person can, and there's points for being the person with the most number of dresses in that room, and there's slightly less points for being second. So in that way there's sort of an area control mechanic. Apart from people managing to snipe things that you want, for the most part though, if they've taken something that's very good, they've probably had to pay more for it than you were prepared to pay. So there's a you know how in Five Tribes we've played, you can bid for turn order?
Yeah.
And if you really, really want to go first, you just pay more.
Yep.
Similar sort of thing in Rococo. You're paying, if you really, really want a particular dress, you can just pay more for it.
No worries.
So, it's quite a solid game. If I don't get it for Christmas, I'm probably going to try and pick it up at CanCon this year.
Yep, excellent.
What about yourself, Blue?
Next on my list, so I've done a board game, I've done a computer game. Let's move on to something slightly different. I have been reading religiously Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I'm hoping to do that on the podcast coming up, but it is a fantastic novel, fantasy setting, so it's catered directly towards those people of that sort of ilk. It's written cleverly, there's some interesting plot twists, and it's a really enjoyable story. So I would loosely cater that to, say, anyone in high school, so anyone over 14 or so, who enjoys fantasy fiction will really love that gift. Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Harrow?
I might add that to my to-read list.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had a look on Audible. Unfortunately, I couldn't seem to find it on there. But,
I think it's a relatively recent set. I'm not even sure if the third novel is out yet. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll keep an eye out.
Very good. So, Harrow, what's next on your list?
I looked up, as I keep saying every week on this podcast, that I've been really into the web series Ruby. So I looked up the Rooster Teeth store to see if there's anything, I could get for myself as a Christmas present. But all the good stuff is sold out. So very, very sad.
What would you deem the good stuff for someone who really is passionate about Ruby?
I like wearing my pop culture shirt, so I would like a nice Yang shirt or a Team Ruby shirt, something like that. Sold out. They've got some really good female characters. I'd recommend Ruby for any female anime fan, really. It's sort of like turns the gender stereotypes that you'd see in most animes on its head. So they've got some really strong, very good female characters. And they're not too hello boys, unlike a lot of other anime, so I wouldn't mind a couple of those figurines. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
Yeah, I would actually be on board with that as well. I think Ruby's probably one of the better animes in terms of, I'm just going to call it feminism in general. So, yeah, I quite enjoy it.
Yeah. There's been some issues in animation in the past, I think, in terms of over-characterization of female characters and stuff like that.
And male as well. I mean, the body types are very extreme.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just talked about Naruto. They're Shonen Jump. They're the worst for their, archetype useless female characters.
Yeah. All right, Bauxite, what's next on your list?
Well, one we've talked about before, actually. So I'll just mention it. Sheriff of Nottingham's on my list. I don't know who I'm going to get it for. I don't think I want it for me, because there are people in my gaming circle that already have it. So I don't think necessarily it's a good buy for me. I might get it for one of my friends who lives in Wollongong, since I don't think anyone at their games night actually has it, and I think it's a very solid game. So I won't go into too much detail, but yeah, that's definitely on my list.
Yeah, you can check out that in our past episodes in terms of what we think of it and what the game is about. I'll give you a really quick rundown, though. Essentially, you're a tradesperson going to market. You're trying to sneak your illicit goods in with your legitimate goods past the sheriff. You take it in turns being the sheriff, and the person with the most gold/goods at the end wins.
Yeah. So you can hear about that in episode 10, which was our last episode. So...
Yep.
Wait, is this episode 11?
It is. Okay. So we have already recorded episode 10, but we haven't edited it yet. We're a little behind on editing at the moment. So hopefully over Christmas we'll catch up. And this is actually going to be published in the next couple of days. So this will actually come out before. Anyway.
Well, the long short of it is we all enjoyed the game.
Yeah. Yep, there's a lot to enjoy about that game. You can also check it out on Tabletop if you want to check out that Will Wheaton's YouTube channel. It's great. Cool.
Who's next?
I'm next.
So what would you like for Christmas, Bluetongue?
Have you been a good boy?
I'm just going to continue moving down my list. I'm going to talk about 2 indie games. That way I'm not getting too slowly through these things. Firstly, I've got a game called Mark of the Ninja. Now, I've owned that for quite some time, and it's not my most played game on my Steam account, but I have spent a good 13 hours playing that game. And essentially, it's a side-scrolling animated stealth-based game where you're navigating your way through patrolmen and searchlights and using all sorts of your cool ninja abilities to do that. That is a really fun game, and it's not excessively demanding on your PC or anything like that, like most of the indie games I'll talk about this evening. So I really strongly recommend that. Bauxite, you've played that as well. How did you find it?
I found it amazing. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I've completed it on the hardcore version, which is you actually can only see in front of you. which was brutally difficult because you couldn't see bad guys sneaking up beside you. Yeah, which is in, sorry, not hardcore, New Game Plus mode. So that was full on. So the only achievement I'm actually missing is read one of the history lesson developer commentaries, because it's like I'm not going to read one of those just to get the achievement. So, but no, I played the hell out of that game. I've got 147 hours played. I loved it.
Yep, that was fantastic.
Yep.
So the other indie game I'll quickly touch on is a game called Faster Than Light. Now, Faster Than Light's another roguelike. Essentially, the game is based around you flying a spaceship through space, and in doing so, you're encountering like other pirate spaceships and slavers and all manner of unpleasantness. And you have to try and navigate your way through all that stuff, upgrading your ship along the way, upgrading your weapons, recruiting more crew. And then when you get to the end, you have to fight the flagship of the rebel fleet. You are actually on the side of the Imperials, for want of a better word. And you have to destroy the rebels at the end. But the rebels seem to be really well equipped, and you will die lots trying to finish the game. It took me a good chunk of about 30 hours, I think, before I even finished this game. But there's a lot of fun content to it. It's super cheap and, again, not really demanding. Harrow, have you played this at all?
Yeah, I have.
Yep. How did you find it?
Meh. I played it for a bit and then stopped. I haven't done anywhere near as much as you guys have.
Okay. And what made you stop?
It's pretty unforgiving.
That is true. It is also arbitrary, and sometimes it will just kill you for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Bauxite, what about you? How did you find Faster Than Light?
Good. I have a little program called Poke. Now, what that does, it's a memory editor, and it does some amazing things, like make the number of missiles on your ship infinite, and gives you lots of money, and stops your shields going to 0. So I completed the game rather well by cheating the hell out of it. I really enjoyed the story. It was great.
Fair enough.
I tend to do that to roguelikes because eventually the dying over and over and over again gets on my nerves. So,
yeah.
But I played it for about about 35 hours before I started cheating. So
fair enough.
Yeah, but it's a great game, especially if you love roguelikes.
Yes, absolutely. I'll just get a price mark for you guys. Okay, it's retailing for $10 US, which is very, very little for a really great computer game. Like, this is the whole idea. It's like give you some great ideas for computer games that aren't going to break the budget but are still thoroughly enjoyable. Darkest Dungeon goes for $20 US. And the other game we just discussed was Mark of the Ninja. That is retailing for $15 US. Now, bear in mind, all these things can be, you can just put them on your wish list for Steam and just wait until they come on sale, which is another great option. So for people who are thinking of maybe a game, but they're not sure what their friend has or something, you can always just buy like Steam Wallet money and give it to them and let them wait for a sale. Alright, so Harrow, what's next on your list?
This one's not for me. I've already read it and loved it, but Mrs. Bauxite doesn't listen to this podcast, right?
No, she does not.
Fantastic. I bought Mrs. Bauxite, the comic Batman Mad Love, which written by Paul Dini and is sort of like the backstory introduction to Harley Quinn. So we're talking a lot about Harley Quinn this week, aren't we? Yeah, and it reads like an Alan Moore story. I can't recommend Mad Love.
Sorry, for those of us who don't know who Alan Moore is.
He is a comic book author like Paul Dini. And what I loved about his work is he like in Watchmen and in Miracle Man and in Mad Love, always makes you question without without forcing the question down your throat. The story makes you ask these open-ended, ambiguous questions. And what Mad Love does is at the end you sit back and you're going, is Harley Quinn a villain or a victim? Because you just, it could go either way.
Yeah.
And
I would say they're not necessarily exclusive, even.
Yeah, it's true, but I think this could keep you and your wife talking for a while. The ins and outs of this story.
All right, cool. Well, I'm looking. Sorry, I'm sure she's looking forward to getting that.
Excellent. I'm actually interested in reading that as well, so I'll wait till you guys are done and have a look. All right, Bauxite, what's next on your list?
Well, unsurprisingly, there's another board game on my list. In fact, I'll give you guys a bit of a spoiler. They're all board games. So, next on my list is a game called Codenames. It's got a bit of a spy theme, but to be perfectly honest, the theme in this board game is paper thin. Basically, there's a whole heap of cards on the table with words on them. There might be cup, king, tree, jumping, telescope, whatever. Like, just random words. And they're lined in a grid. Now, there are 2 teams, and one player from each team has a little card in front of... one player from each team giving the clues, I guess. They have a little card, and it shows which cards in the grid are on the blue team and which cards are on the red team. So you want to give a clue to the blue team people to say, these are the cards. You should now guess some of these cards as being, in the theme. So you give a theme. So you might go horizon. And then you give a number, like 3, and that means that there are 3 cards in the, on the table in front of your teammates that relate to the word horizon, and they need to guess which ones they are. They need to guess your team color without guessing the opponent's team's color. So they might go, telescope sounds good, ocean sounds good, and spaceship sounds good. And it might be that, yes, telescope and ocean were good, but the other one you wanted was ship, not spaceship or something. And you've accidentally given a point to the red team. But it's a lot of fun. It doesn't have the pressure of a game like Taboo, where there's a timer and interrupting and stress. But it's similar sort of thought process. You're trying to get inside the heads of your friends and give them a sort of cryptic stab at what they should be guessing without ruining your team's chances. So
cool.
It's really good. It's been rated really highly on Board Game Geek. It's been really hard to get a copy as well. So it's one of the fad games at the moment.
Yep.
Again, if I don't happen to land a copy for Christmas, I'll try for CanCon. I'm sure there'll be copies sitting around at CanCon. So,
excellent. Yep.
What's next on your list?
Well, again, I'm going to double up at this point. I'm going to go with a theme of Sid Meier games. Now, Sid Meier designed a game called Civilization way, way, way back in the 90s, I believe. And loosely described, that is a game of building a civilization from scratch. So you essentially start out with a small group of settlers and 1 military unit. And your objective in the game is to build an empire, which stands the test of time, be it takes over the world, or it gets to space first, or it's really culturally advanced. Now, so Civ 5 is obviously the most recent iteration thereof, and it's a classic game. It's been around forever. There's been improvements, different mechanics in the game, like borders and other things like that, as well as like different units becoming available, different civilizations. There's a lot to appeal in Civ 5 for the passionate turn-based strategist computer gamer. So unfortunately, I then have to refine the game down to a very specific audience as to the kind of people who would probably like it. So it's not for your first-person shooter type players. It's not for your people with short attention spans, because games can last for a long time. But I really strongly recommend it for those people who like to think strategically and have like a historical ilk to the kind of stuff that they like. Have you guys played Civ 5?
No.
No?
I think the game I've played similar to what you're describing is Rise of Nations.
Okay. Is that a turn-based or is that a real-time?
Real-time.
Yep. So Civ 5's like turn-based. You sit down and you figure out exactly what your cities are going to build each turn, and what units and what buildings and what bonuses you're going to go for and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, loosely described, it's I guess a little bit similar to like Age of Empires or something like that in terms of a real-time strategy equivalent.
Yeah, I recently played the Beyond Earth version of Civilization. Really enjoyed that, but probably the only criticism I can give of these games is that the first edition of the game is not complete. Well, it's not as good as with the expansions. The expansions really, really make these games. So, yeah, really looking forward to the next expansion for Beyond Earth, actually.
Which
it's
is
already
called
out.
Rising Tides.
Yes. I haven't got it yet. Waiting for a Steam sale. So.
Yeah, I actually looked it up. I actually purchased this for Mrs. Bluetongue, and she and the copy I got her was a hard copy from JB Hi-Fi. It was cheaper to buy from there for $40 than it was buying online at Steam for $39 US. So yeah, I just forked out the $40 and just paid for it there. Mm-hmm. Now the other game I wanted to quickly discuss is a game called XCOM. Now, XCOM, again, has been around for a really long time, and that is a game loosely described as aliens have invaded Earth. Things are going very poorly for the nations involved, and your job is basically removing those guys, figuring out what they're after and how they work, and then wiping them out. And essentially, XCOM, you have been given control of a small elite unit of soldiers, and you have to move them around a map and try not to get them killed by aliens. And yeah, they've got different skill categories and stuff like that, and you can customize them in various ways. And yeah, it's a really enjoyable game. Again, Sid Meier had a contribution towards this game, and it is turn-based. So there's a bit of moving around your soldiers and sort of taking it in turns, and then they all get shot at, and then you shoot at them type of situation. But it's really thoroughly enjoyable. I really love this game. Have either of you guys played this?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, I haven't either. I've always looked at it, but never got quite around to the purchase. Again, another thing on my wish list. Yeah,
well, given that we have the shared Steam account, you can just download it and give it a run anytime you want.
That's true.
It is thoroughly enjoyable, and I guess it can be a little bit time-consuming. It's a little bit unforgiving as well, but there is always just the save option. You can either play it like hardcore mode, and if one of your soldiers dies, they die for good, or you can just save it and keep going back to other points in the game. I'm usually very attached to my soldiers, so I don't like letting them die.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can understand that.
So, Harrow, what else have you got on your list?
I've got something. I was babysitting my nephews the other day, and Harry kept talking about the Batman spaceship. So I went out and got a Lego model for him for Christmas. He's 4, and I've got him the Batboat Harbor Pursuit. And it's a fancy Batman-looking boat, but if I tell him it's a spaceship, I believe my 4-year-old nephew will believe that I've given him a Batman spaceship. So, yeah.
You're lying to children?
I'm expanding the imagination of my nephew.
You are a very poor role model.
Oh,
that is not true at all.
Christmas time. Seriously, Harrow.
That is not true at all. Anyone who gives their children or relatives or small relatives Lego is always a good person in my books.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
Throwing out Lego is a sin.
yeah. Lego is just one of those really, really easy gifts. You don't have to get a huge one. You can just get them a small one. Although, obviously, there is some age limit on it because you don't want them choking on anything too small and stuff like that. But
Yes, Harry has. My 4-year-old nephew knows he has to keep the Lego away from his 2-year-old brother. So this model's got Batman, got Robin, and it's got Deathstroke, and not the crappy Deathstroke from Arrow, but the real Deathstroke.
Cool.
In Lego.
Very good. All right, Bauxite. What's next on your list?
Look, next on my list is another Euro board game, Castles of Burgundy. So this is not a brand new game by any means. A bit of a classic. In the same sort of way that, how to describe this one? There's a little bit of a luck element. So you're rolling dice, and that'll let you choose where you basically buy buildings from. And you put these buildings on your map, and they do stuff. You get points for filling up areas with buildings, and it plays probably in a lot of ways very similar to something like Rococo, in terms of the main thing is going to be sniping things that your opponents want that you can use better than them. So, very solid Euro board game. I played it with my friends in Wollongong a lot, and yeah, we get a lot of play out of that. A little bit of setup time on it. But actually, I think this is something you would probably enjoy a lot as well, because I do know that you like your solid Euros. The only problem I would say with this is there's a bit of setting up time and packing up time. Apart from that, look, very easy to learn, and quite not impossible to master. But the main challenge is watching what your opponents are doing and stopping them going crazy on points. Yeah. What about yourself?
Next on my list, I'm going to stick with this theme of like building stuff, and it's a game called Suburbia. Now not spoilers, just FYI for a lot of people, these are actually all games mostly that I own. There's a couple of exceptions, but I like to recommend stuff that I can really definitively say, yeah, this is a fantastic game. It's really enjoyable. Now, Suburbia is all about building up a city. You're essentially town planning, and without all the legalities therein. And essentially what you're trying to do is get money, pick out the appropriate tile for how you're trying to set up your town. And yeah, it's a really cleverly crafted game. There's some cool catch-up mechanics for people who might fall behind a bit at the start. And yeah, just a solid game. It sounds very similar to what you were just describing, Bauxite. Like in terms of there's like a queue of buildings. You choose what you want to build, and that's next in the queue, or you can pay more for different buildings that are later in the queue.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very solid mechanic in Euros to sort of balance how the power comes out.
Yeah. Very good. All right. So, Harrow, is there any other games or anything that sort of sprung to mind that while we've been talking that you'd like to bring up?
Not really. I mean, there are a couple of comics I want to finish. I've been reading Secret Six. It's a very obscure DC property. Not many people have heard about it. But if you're intrigued by a story from the villain's perspective that doesn't suck, I'd recommend Secret Six, because the next book I think comes out early next year. I'll be getting that, and I'm not sure if that'll be the last or the second last volume. Depends how much they want to squeeze out of it. So these guys are all it's set in the DC universe, so it's villains you'd see fighting DC heroes, but these are like the B, C, and D stringers here, the real losers, and they sort of form a mercenary company. And they can have their honor amongst these moments, but the story never lets you forget that these are murderous psychopaths, and you can like them from time to time. So yeah, a good story from the villain's perspective.
Excellent. Bauxite, what's next on your list?
I talked about this in passing before, Imperial Assault. I guess in order to celebrate the episode 7 coming out, this is a tabletop skirmish miniatures game in the Star Wars universe. It's asymmetric play. You have one player who controls all of the Imperial units, and the other players will control a single rebel hero each. And you're set up with a little objective. Get in here, shoot the computer. Go over here and kill that droid. Protect this person and move them from this side of the map to the other one. Meanwhile, the Imperial player's trying to stop you achieving your objective. It's multiple little skirmishes, and it has a sort of a story campaign going on in the background. It's not I wouldn't even say it's necessarily a pen and paper roleplay game, because it's not really. It's just the fighting system from one, I guess. But in the same sort of vein as something like Risk Legacy, you can sit down with a group of 4 friends, and you, I guess, and play through the campaign in this. And there is actual consequences for succeeding in a mission or not. If you succeed in the mission, you'll get a good thing and a little bonus to your character. You'll get more loot. You'll get to carry a better gun. If you fail, well, the Imperial player is going to come along and slap you around a little bit. So, yeah, it's quite an interesting game. It's a little on the dear side. 170 is about the average price I've seen for it in shops. So,
really?
Yeah.
Cool, you linked. I thought it was going for 100 American. That's a big jump.
Yep, there's a wonderful thing called the Australia tax when it comes to board games. Yeah. I'm sure I can find it cheaper at CanCon. Last year I saw it there for 160, and I should have picked it up, and it was a lot newer, and it was the hotness back then. 170 is what I'm seeing it for in places like Good Games, which is, Good Games is not the cheapest place to buy your board games.
But it's a decent benchmark.
Does one of the objectives in this game involve exhaust ports?
I don't think so, unfortunately, because you're not actually flying any ships. That's the main issue. You're actually individual dudes on a map.
That doesn't mean the map can't have exhaust ports.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I can see that. But I don't think I haven't actually played it a great deal. I've played maybe half a dozen skirmishes with my friends in Wollongong. None of them involved exhaust ports, but there's no reason you couldn't make your own map with an exhaust port if you really wanted to.
Sounds about right.
I've been seeing Imperial Assault pop up a lot on Dice Tower in a lot of sort of top games from 2014, I believe. So it comes recommended from that arena at least, but. Yeah, I guess it'll appeal mainly to the people who A, have an existing interest in Star Wars, and B, enjoy board games or miniature games or anything like that.
Yeah, if you're someone who would be vaguely interested in something like a Star Wars Dungeons and Dragons without all the namby-pamby acting like an elf and shit, this is exactly the game for you. Yeah. So you can really do you don't have to memorize a whole rule book. And it's really fairly easy to pick up as well. So actually, I think this is something that I'm probably going to try and convince you to sit down and play with me, Harrow.
That's fine, but we still need to play. I get to take you out to play Star Wars Armada.
We'll have a conversation about this another time. The only problem with Star Wars... Wait, what's the third one? There's a third...
There's Armada, X-Wing, and Imperial Assault.
Yeah. So I guess where I'm at the moment is things like X-Wing and X-Wing and Armada. I'm a little bit worried about falling down the money hole.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I fell down that hole with Warhammer and Warhammer 40k and Magic the Gathering. The great thing about Imperial Assault is, you're up for a big cost up front, but the game's not going to get any better if you decide to go out and buy the AT-AT or the Imperial Cruiser or the next hot miniature that makes all the other miniatures not as good because of power creep.
Does this Imperial Assault, though, I can't imagine it's a one and done. There'll be expansions.
There will be expansions which will add more content, but they won't devalue the previous money you've spent.
Mm-hmm. But say, from what I understand, there's up to 5 heroes already included on the Rebellion side, and only a couple on the Imperial side. So I don't know. Maybe
there's a ton of miniatures on the Imperial side. Like, you don't actually control any heroes per se. You have just a whole bunch of units.
Okay.
In terms of, I mean, you'll have like droids and stormtroopers and elite stormtroopers and all sorts of stuff. It's a whole bucket of miniatures on the Imperial side. So there's a whole lot of replayability in it. Yeah, it could be a money pit, but you don't have to keep spending money in order to be competitive with your friends. That's the only thing I'm worried about with Armada. Very happy to play it once off, but probably am not going to invest. But who knows? I could be.
I probably wouldn't either. I still want to try it though.
Yeah, no, happy to try it. In fact,
the idea of controlling capital ships on a map to blow the crap out of stuff.
Now tell me, do you know if these games have exhaust ports?
They should, damn it. They really should. If there's not, me and you were going to design an exhaust port miniature.
Okay, awesome.
So, moving on. The next item on my list is a game called Love Letter. Now, Love Letter has really hit the big time. I've seen it pop up all over the place. There's multiple versions of it. It's been massively popular, and everyone I've introduced to it has really loved it to bits, especially people with kids. It's a really easy, interesting, strategic, but still entertaining and good interaction type style game. Essentially, the game is you are in court and you're trying to get your love letter to the princess. Now, that's just the narrative for the game. The actual game itself works by having a small deck of cards, and you draw one card, you look at the 2 cards available to you, and you just play one of them. And that sounds relatively simple, but there's a lot of logical deduction and reasoning and that sort of stuff that goes along into the game. So there's good concepts and good mechanics, really strong mechanics behind this game. So I can really recommend it on that basis. It goes for about $20. You can get a copy at almost any board game store. And
you can get it in any flavor you want.
That's right, including Batman flavor.
There's a Batman flavor, there's an Adventure Time flavor, there's a Munchkin flavor.
In terms of the festive season, there's actually a Santa flavor you might want to try as well.
All delicious, I'm told. So, what about you, Bauxite? What's next on yours?
Well, skipping Harrow because I think he's done. One more thing on my list, which I'm going to try and convince my group of friends to commit to, is Pandemic Legacy. I had a lot of fun with Risk Legacy. I also had an awful time with Risk Legacy, depending on whether I was winning or not. But yeah, look, I loved Risk Legacy. I love the idea of, changing the map forever, and that was so much fun, right until someone changed the map forever, but destroying my capital city with a nuke. Oh my goodness, I was so cross. But look, it's a fantastic game, and the fact that you can, unlock things through achievements, essentially, as you play the board game is amazing. Pandemic Legacy, I'm really looking forward to. I'm a big fan of the base board game Pandemic, which is diseases are outbreaking in the world, and you got to stop them because you're essentially the World Health Organization. I don't know why that was so hard to say. And yeah, you're trying to stomp out diseases, and every player has a special player power and a special character that they're controlling. Pandemic Legacy adds a whole nother dimension to this, where if you defeat the diseases, different things will happen. You guys can make choices about how you want to change the world. Maybe you shut down a shipping lane between America and Asia in order to prevent the spread of disease. Maybe open another shipping lane between Australia and South America in order to get a bit more mobility on the board. Look,
No. We isolate Australia and the rest of the world can burn.
Well, that may not be the best strategy. We'll see. Look, I'm probably going to try and see if I can get Bluetongue, yourself, and Mrs. Bluetongue to play with myself and Mrs. Bauxite. We do need a fifth. Harrow, if you're interested, might be something you're keen for.
I can't even win regular Pandemic.
Well, Mrs. Bluetongue is actually very good at this, and Bluetongue's not too bad either. But Mrs. Bluetongue has, I guess, a professional background in something adjacent to this field.
She's actually a Bond villain. She makes military diseases.
We can't put this to air. Having said that, but look, I think putting our heads together, we can probably do okay. So, if you can, I'm definitely going to try and give that a shot one day. Again, if I don't find it for Christmas or get invited by a friend who gets a copy, I'll pick it up at CanCon. Yeah,
excellent. I think that Mrs. Bluetongue will be very keen, and I'm happy to give it a run on her account. I got a little bit turned off by some of the mechanics in Pandemic when I was playing it initially, although the potential for this to be like a long drawn out interesting game, it has potential there, so I'm happy to give that a run. So next game on my list, I'm going to actually say this is the last game on my list. I'm going to run through a few other bits and pieces that I've picked up, but I can't recommend them from first-hand experience, so I'm not going to suggest that people go out and buy them directly. So the next game on my list is Borderlands 2, and Borderlands is a really interesting first-person shooter, come dungeon crawler. So essentially the game is all about taking your character into areas, shooting lots of stuff, and collecting loot and opening chests and getting more loot out of your chests and looking for more armor and guns and all manner of things like that. It's a really fun game. Works really well cooperatively if you've got a bunch of people that are actually interested in that sort of style of game. And it's got a really great sense of humor that's absent in a lot of games I've played over the years, especially first-person shooters seem to always struggle with this sort of area. But Borderlands 2 is really, really cleverly written. It's really well voice-acted, and it's a really entertaining game, so I can really strongly recommend it. There's more than a few expansions and other bits and pieces, but you really only need the base game to get the most out of it. Have either of you guys played this?
Nope.
Unfortunately, not at all. Okay. Again, something on my wish list. I don't have time to play all the things I want, which is an absolutely ridiculous thing for someone who's been on and off unemployed for the last 6 months.
That's very true.
And someone who has, over 1,000 hours on Skyrim. But yeah, look, I've got very close to playing it. I think I'm probably just going to steal it from your account and check it out one day.
Yeah, I have access to another copy actually, so hypothetically we can both play at the same time if you want to give that a run cooperatively at some point.
Okay, yeah, sounds cool.
Excellent. All right, so just as a quick conclusion, I'm just going to hit on other few games that I've not personally tried. But hopefully you guys can contribute something to in terms of my opinion as to whether or not we should recommend them. So these are the things that you'll see popping around the place all around in terms of game stores and stuff like that. Well, at least some of them will anyway. So the first one is a game called Star Wars Battlefront. Now, it's a first-person shooter set in the Star Wars universe, and essentially you're reliving a lot of the epic battles from Star Wars, like the Battle of Hoth with all the ice everywhere and the AT-ATs walking across the landscape and the little ships flying around and stuff like that. And you're either trying to defend the rebel base or you're trying to attack the rebel base. It's a really pretty game. It has a lot of environmental cues and things that just make it look like you're really living out the Star Wars universe. But there are some downsides, I'm told. So, what have you guys heard about Star Wars?
The thing that turned me off completely was apparently, yep, you can buy it full price. Oh, by the way, there's another $50 DLC if you want to play the whole game.
Okay, do you know what the DLC actually contains?
Maps and a gameplay mode, I believe.
Okay. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. Especially
for you.
Sorry?
That's Electronic Arts for you.
That's very true. They have a habit of doing this sort of thing. But in terms of my basic playthrough of the game, I can recommend it as a mechanically decent first-person shooter. I wouldn't call it original in any stretch of the imagination, but it's an okay property for Star Wars. So, next on the list is Fallout 4. Now, I haven't played this, but it's been announced to huge fanfare, and Bauxite, I believe you and Mrs. Bauxite have been playing this.
You'd very much like to think that. Unfortunately, we only have one computer capable of playing it, and guess what? I haven't had the opportunity to be on that computer while Mrs. Bauxite is around at all. So she's been playing the hell out of Fallout 4. She's loving it. Look, it's mechanically very, very similar to Skyrim. It's the same engine. Yep. This is what Bethesda does well. Yes. Look, okay. I would love to get into it the second I can get my computer back.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, in terms of story and an immersive sort of sandbox world, very highly rated. The village crafting in it is great, and a huge improvement from the Hearthfire expansion that we got for Elder Scrolls, where you got to build your own house. This is a lot more modular and freeform. So, yeah, very, very much looking forward to having a go of this.
Excellent. Now, is there any replayability to this game?
Yeah, there's different options and different choices you can make in the storyline. The only problem is that you do tend to end up in the same place. No matter what choices you make along the road, you will eventually. There's always a lighthouse and there's always a girl. Look, you're going to end up in the same place.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
You might be very slightly different. You might crown one person king instead of another, or whatever. But typically these games, yeah, I mean, there's definitely replayability in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got 1,000 hours played on Elder Scrolls Skyrim. So, and I had played similar amounts in Morrowind and Oblivion. Yes, there's definitely replayability.
Okay.
But you're not going to get a brand new story every single time.
Yeah. For those of you who are interested in this style of game, it's definitely like Bauxite was just saying, people who are already interested in these big open world sandbox style games. I'm pretty sure that that's roughly what Fallout is catered towards. So, yeah, that sounds promising. Way too expensive for my tastes at the moment in terms of value for money. Now, there's another game on my list called Cities Skylines. Now, this is basically what I've heard of it described as the game that SimCity should have been. So, essentially, it's just a city builder. You're just building a city and designing it and connecting everything with roads. And I find that strangely relaxing to play. So, I'm interested in playing this, but I can't say I've played it personally. Have either of you guys played this?
Nope.
I have not. No.
Okay.
So I think the fact that none of us have played it is probably not. I think we can probably highly recommend it.
Yeah. So yeah, if someone in your life is really interested and excited about things like The Sims and SimCity and all the other sim games that have gone along in the past, they're probably going to be really interested in this game, City Skylines. Now, the last game that I've purchased, without actually having played, is a game called Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and that I bought for Mrs. Bauxite today.
She doesn't listen to the podcast either.
No.
She still does not listen to the podcast. She's actually getting a fairly decent Christmas by the sounds of it.
Yes. So... Although I don't know if this will arrive before then. But I bought this off Oz Game Shop for $80, I think it goes for. And essentially it's a similar game to what we were just describing about Suburbia and what was the game that you were discussing? Castles of Burgundy? Mm-hmm. And so it's essentially a game where you're building your own castle, and you have rooms, and you have hallways and corridors and dungeons and other bits and pieces, and you're just connecting them in weird and wonderful ways to try and maximize the amount of points that you get out of this game. So, Castles of Mad King Ludwig. It's also been highly regarded by more than a few board game reviewers, so I'm interested to try this when it finally arrives.
I'm actually very glad that it's going to end up in the Bauxite collection, because I have really been thinking about Suburbia, and this means that I don't need to buy Suburbia. I don't see a reason to have both, because they are so similar. One's, building a castle themed, one's building a village theme. Essentially, you're going to be making very, very similar types of decisions, which is, I can put this here and it fits well, but it doesn't synergize with that thing. So I'm going to instead put it over there because it synergizes better. But perhaps I should buy this other thing so that you can't get it, because it'll be like 10 points if you get it, where it's only worth 5 to me. And yeah, that sort of decision making is what you're going to be doing in both games.
All right. So hopefully we've given the listeners some inspiration for Christmas shopping and that sort of thing. A lot of these things can and should be bought online, so make sure you go out and shop around a bit. Oz Game Store, Good Games, that sort of place stock all this sort of stuff. I'm not going to recommend that you get it from Milsims. Based on
not if you don't want it in time for Christmas Day. No
exactly. I've had some really bad experiences with the amount of time it takes them to get stock in. So
the
just
only
be
thing
aware of that.
Yeah. Well, if you buy something on back order, do not expect it to arrive anytime soon.
Exactly.
If it's in stock, they are fantastic. They'll deliver it quickly, and they are very, very cheap. Which I can't complain about. The good thing is you don't actually pay for it until he has it in stock and has shipped it. So there is that. You put in your credit card details, but yeah, you don't actually get charged the money until later. Yeah. So, but yeah, it can take a long time if it's on back order. I have had that experience too. But yeah, that's what you get if you want something that is, I think, literally the cheapest place you can buy board games in Australia. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to wind us up, Bauxite?
Thanks for joining us this week. We hope you've enjoyed yourselves as much as we have. You can catch us on Twitter at WellPlayedAU. You can send us questions, comments, or abuse at wellplayedau@gmail.com. You can also send us Christmas greetings. That would be lovely. If you'd like, you can leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or comment on YouTube. Well, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to every one of our listeners. See you guys.
Merry Christmas.